Today we have with us Mr. Jasprit Makar, who is the founder of Visual AI, India's largest solar O&M analytics company. Jasprit is a graduate of JP Institute of Information Technology. After his graduation itself, he started working on his own venture. Hi, Jasprit. Welcome to Entrepreneur Lounge of India.
Hi, Priya. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining in.
Jasprit, would like to start by asking you, what is Visual AI? What does it do?
So, Visual AI is now a control center for solar assets. So, solar typically, as a power generation mechanism, as a power source, is spread across a very, very large area. And the usual engineers on the ground find it really challenging to identify how they can improve performance. So, Visual AI amalgamates data from different sources, starting from drones, sensors, includes a bit of deep learning, includes a bit of big data analysis, and helps energy companies in improving their production.
Right. And tell us a bit about yourself as well. I would like to know in detail what kind of person you are. What are your interests, and anything you want to share.
Sure. As a person, I'm very curious. I remain curious, perpetually curious throughout the day, throughout the year. Uh, Even during the lockdown, I would say I've remained very curious and I've been working aggressively on fermentation. So, if I were to define what I do as a person, what I do, what I want to do in my life, it would be using technology and solving all of these lovely, beautiful problems that exist in front of us. So, solar, optimizing solar, it's usage of how different technologies can actually optimize solar. On the other hand, something that I'm really excited about right now is fermentation. How do you use more scientific processes that are recent developments in building something that has been there for thousands of years? So mental health, how can you use new technologies to actually make mental health a more accessible option for the larger masses? So all of these different problems that excite me again have a common pattern. How do you use technology? How do you find new solutions to improve pre-existing problems in a larger manner? So curiosity is one word that I would closely associate with myself. I remain curious. I love doing things because there's an intrinsic curiosity towards things in the world.
Nice. So, Jasprit, as I mentioned earlier, and I could see it from your profile, LinkedIn profile, that you have been into entrepreneurship from the beginning. You have never been to a job. So that is something I found very curious. You have not done internship as well. So, can you tell me how has been your journey into entrepreneurship? How did you, from childhood, were you entrepreneur in nature? So that is how you got to know, yeah, this is what I want to do. How was it?
So it was never really a choice per se. One thing led to another, and it has sort of just transpired from small, humble beginnings. So from as long as I remember, was always very excited about selling things, and I remember selling a few small things here and there while I was still in school. Then I remember selling school party passes to my batchmates. Then I remember giving guitar classes to people of our age group, our peers at that time. So it was never this conscious choice that I would not like to work somewhere but be an entrepreneur. But it was a natural series of events happening one after another, wherein I found myself in a situation where I was either selling a service or a product to someone else, and probably did not know or call it as an entrepreneurship initially, but it sort of just happened as steps, and then it naturally transpired into where we are today. I mean, I don't see a problem with working somewhere else, working as an employee. I think that's a great experience in itself, and I've never had the opportunity to do that. But I think you'll have to sort of understand that it happened in a natural manner. It was not a coercive decision that, hey, I will get up and I'll become an entrepreneur today. It has just happened on its own.
Hmm. Jasprit, you started your first venture just out of college, just uh, after graduating from college. So, can you tell me, what was your first day into entrepreneurship like?
So Priya, as I said, there was never a first day. So the background is that while I was still in college, while I was in second year, I used to make projects, electronics projects, and then put them on OLX. So I was still making money while being a student in the college. Uh, as a part of my major project, I started building drones, and then I realized that people could pay money to buy those drones. So I started selling drones. I eventually realized that people would rather pay you money to perform services for them versus buying the drone. So we started providing services. So there was never one good morning when I got up and said that, hey, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to be selling or making. It happened as a series of events. And one thing led to another. And from college projects to drones to selling drones to providing services using drones to now using drones and other data sources for improving solar, all of them I would say have been incremental steps over the last few years to actually create more value for our clients, for our stakeholders, for our team.
Right. Uh, so, how was your family? How did your family react to it when you said you want to start on your own? Typically, what happens is most of the college graduates they get into a job, right? So, what
Hmm.
was the reaction from your family? How did they support you?
I think in that regard, I've been pretty blessed to have a family that's extremely liberal. Uh, they are very open to their kids doing whatever they want to do. They understand that us as kids, as their kids, are also individuals in our own lives, and hence we should have the liberty, the freedom to make our own choices, be it the right ones or maybe the things that would not be really right in the longer run. But they've given us that freedom, they've given us a liberty to do whatever we want to do. So the family again has always been very supportive. They've always motivated me to go out and do what I want to do. And while they've been concerned, because again, as all of us would understand, all sorts of professions, including entrepreneurship, have their own challenges. Uh, of course, entrepreneurship gets glorified as a more challenging thing to do, but I wouldn't fully agree. I think even working somewhere as an employee or leading a company as a CEO, all of these have different levels of challenges, and each of them have their own opportunities as well. So the
Mm.
family has been very, very supportive from the day one itself. They've expressed concern on the number of hours that I've been putting in and the number of days that I've spent in the lab working on Priya, did you lose me?
Yes, Jasprit, I lost you in between, but that should be fine. I'll edit this part. No worries.
Okay,
So,
sure.
I think internet. There is some internet issues at your end, or is it from my end? Jasprit. Jasprit, the internet is it fine from your end, or is it happening from my end?
Hey, Priya, sorry, I got disconnected.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well now. Yes.
Okay, so was it from my end or was it from your end?
I think it was my end, so I switched to another Wi-Fi network. Let's see if this works.
Okay, okay. Should be fine. No issues. I'll edit that part. So, coming to our next question, Jasprit, I'd like to ask you. Uh, Once you have figured out that this is what I want to do, then you need people to implement your ideas or your vision. How did you find your teammates or your co-founders? Uh, while starting out.
Sure. So one thing that I've always felt and noticed while asking for teammates to join in or asking people to partner with and network with, uh, so I've always looked for people who are extremely passionate. It doesn't matter what they're passionate about or towards. So
Hmm.
a person might just be passionate towards playing the guitar, baking, cycling, dancing, anything in the world.
Hmm.
But there's a pattern that I've noticed that people who are passionate about any one thing can
Hmm.
be passionate about other things as well. So
Hmm.
it's an intrinsic passion that they have towards something. So all of our team members right now, I would say, if there's one thing that's common between them, and not just the current team members, but the team who has been a part of the company earlier but work elsewhere right now as well, all
Hmm.
of them have been very, very passionate people. So one of my colleagues, he's passionate about cycling. He's not working with us anymore, but the person does hundreds of kilometers worth of cycling. Another one is very passionate about technology, and he's leading the tech stack for us.
Hmm.
So passion is something that's extremely important in my opinion. It doesn't matter if you're passionate about this problem or not, because that passion, that love towards a problem can be inculcated over a period of time. But the very quality of being passionate, it's something more intrinsic. So that's been a very, very good filtering criteria for us throughout in our journey. Uh, and then you look for people who are interested in doing things that you are doing. So, for example, someone might just be very curious and interested in renewable energy and hence want to work with us. Someone
Hmm.
might be very interested in drones as a technology and hence might find that creative freedom in the work that we do. So
Hmm.
there has to be an overlap between what the organization is doing and what are the personal interests of the person, and then you try to get them on the team by uh, finding a middle ground wherein they find their ambitions to be satisfied with the companies, and the company finds growth in the contribution by the person.
I think that is a very interesting point you mentioned. Having passion as an intrinsic quality. So I think one of the founders I have met in past, he spoke about the very same aspect. So when he was starting out, he found another guy who was all star in. Who can be the perfect co-founder. So he was good with technology. He was from a very good college and shared a similar vision. What? But they couldn't go ahead with the project after a certain point. They couldn't go ahead. So he mentioned to me, I quote and unquote, there was no passion in that particular guy. So that is what didn't work out for. So I think this is a great lesson for all the founders and co-founders, or maybe the future founders, that when you choose your team, the team has to be very passionate about just anything. They have to have the that energy burning within, right?
Sure. And ethics. I think there should be a common understanding over ethics and ethos. Why? Because I mean, skills can vary. Passion towards different things can vary. How you look at problems and solve them can vary. But there should still be a common ground of ethics between all the team members. There should still be a common mutual moral compass between the team members and the company. That sort of dictates how the organization scales up and grows. Because if, for example, the majority of the team believes significant understands and believes in how important, let's say, customer satisfaction is, or they truly want to build solutions, truly want to build products that uh, that solve problems for customers. That can be one base level ethic for the entire company. That could dictate a lot of everyday decisions. I mean, if that runs as a common element throughout the team, ethics of how the company shall operate, that too happens to be a very, very important factor when you're building your initial team members.
Right. Jasprit, my next question would be, it's a very interesting question. So if I or any big production company wants to make a movie out of your life, especially your entrepreneurial journey, how would the opening sequence be like?
Oh, I think the journey again revolves around the word curiosity. I think that's something that's so intrinsic to my life that I think that is going to be the one word that would define me as a person. So probably the opening scene would be me a 10-year-old kid opening electronics at home, breaking apart TVs, breaking apart radio sets, and again sort of still doing that today in our lives. I mean, I don't think anything has changed in that sense. Probably the problems that I'm solving are larger. Probably the challenges are a little bigger. But I'm still that same young 10-year-old curious guy that's breaking apart things.
Would like to ask you, what is your vision with visual AI, vision and visual AI?
So with Visual AI, I think what we've realized over the last 2 years is that we've been able to scale from a 0% market presence to almost 20% of solar assets being inspected by our software. And that's a significant jump in almost, let's say, about 2 years of time. So what I understood and realized is there are huge gaps in how solar assets are being built and maintained. And now the vision of the company is to incorporate our software at different levels of how solar assets are maintained, and then sort of become a part of the success in India. I'll share a very quick note for people who do not come from solar. So the construction of a solar asset happens in about 8 to 10 months. A large solar asset, let's say a 100 megawatt solar asset, which is producing a lot of electricity. But the asset needs to be maintained for 25 long years. And the way systems work in India right now, there's very few mechanisms of maintaining data, storing data, analyzing data as the asset ages. I mean, sure, right now things are working well, but 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, when your teammates have changed, when the employees of the solar companies have changed, how do you have systems in place that uh, continue providing data, continue providing insights into how well the assets are working? So I think Visualize vision would be very simple, and it's a very simple problem that we are solving. And the problem is, how do we improve energy production of solar assets, and how do we make sure that these solar assets work for 25 years? And our vision is to be in every level of solar operations and maintenance and help in becoming a key proponent of making these assets healthy for the next 25 years. I mean, the world needs clean energy. All of us need green energy. Uh, and if solar doesn't provide all that is promised by it, then probably it might be not a good step for the entire energy ecosystem. So we want to make sure that solar remains green, clean, thrives as an energy source.
Hmm, right. Uh, Now my next question is, how far have you reached in terms of milestones compared to your vision?
So I would say we're still beginning because what we really want to do is uh, how do you change the entire working of a very large energy class, solar? I mean, it's extremely big. Even a small solar asset is extremely big. So versus what can be done on the ground versus what could be done to improve performance throughout the entire ecosystem, we have not done any single thing. We have not even begun. Uh, but versus where we were 2 years ago, we've inspected and helped improving performance of almost 5 gigawatt of assets, and India only has about 30. So 5 gigawatt out of 30 gigawatt we've already contributed in. So versus where we were 2 years ago, we've not done any. We've done quite a lot of things, but versus where we want to be, we've not done anything. So it's an exponential growth journey that we are on to, and we are very excited about that.
What were the biggest challenges you faced along the way while building this venture?
So two, three things. India, I think that's an intrinsic problem with all of us in India. Uh, we want to try out new things. We want to explore new technologies. We want to adopt new solutions. But there are very few people who are first movers. And especially for industry like solar, which is a conventionally large energy producer, trying out new things, trying out new technologies might just be a very risky thing to do because you have got thousands of crores of investments in these assets. So deploying a new technology comes with its own risks. So in comparison to what I've seen patterns across the world, India is slightly behind on adopting new technologies. So getting the first few customers, I would say, was slightly challenging because we had to convince a lot of people of how good the technology actually is. But once that happened, once we got a few marquee customers, we realized that everyone else wants the same solution. So I think as entrepreneurs, this can also go as an advice to people who are budding entrepreneurs. Find one or two customers who can be the torch bearers for your solution, who can go out to the world and tell them that these guys are doing something really nice. The solution actually works. And that was one problem that we solved initially. The second problem, I think, which we still continue to solve every day is, and that again is a problem of the entire business ecosystem in India, which is how do you make sure contracts are honored? How do you make sure your payments come in on time and hence you make payments on time? And I understand the gap comes in because eventually someone in the market did not get the payment from the government and hence it transpired to all different levels at the ground. But I think that's something that needs to change in India. There should be more focus on contracts, intellectual property, quality deliverables, on-time payments. I think this is one big part of the ecosystem where uh, a lot of things happen basis honor, but contracts often get negated. Uh, the second reason for this exact thing could be that our legal system takes forever to come down to decisions, which means that if there's a dispute between two parties, it probably means 5 years investment to come out with a clean slate with a clean answer, and that in itself is extremely challenging as a process for any company, be it of our size, be it much larger, be it much smaller.
Right.
And hence no one gets into that, and hence there's no real value to contracts in India. So these are the two challenges, both of which I think we've, much like any other company in India, have faced. And these are the two challenges which I feel the entire ecosystem, including us, really want to see addressed.
I think the issues you have highlighted, yeah, they are big issues, and they are the reason why India is not able to rank higher in the ease of doing business list, in spite of so many changes like digitization and inclusion and all. Right. Well mentioned. Now, speaking of investments and payments, I would like to know how did you arrange your initial round of funding to build your venture?
Sure. So while I would call Visual AI a startup, and in my mind, the definition of a business and startup is slightly differentiated. But as a person, I would still call myself a conventional business person. So for me, every single activity that we do has to generate money and has to generate profits. And if the activity, an order that we are fulfilling is not generating money, it's not worth doing, at least in the current light of things. Maybe as an investment towards the future, sure, but it has to generate profits. So we started with zero capital, which means that we started with no investments. Our first step was to go out and actually find people who could pay for our services and get advances from them, and use those advances to actually start building our technology, start building our uh, processes, and then use the profits from those early transactions to get more transactions and then get more transactions. So
Hmm.
the company for the first 3 years started with zero capital, and I believe that's the best way to start a lot of businesses, not all businesses, but most businesses, in
Hmm.
which you uh, actually get your customers to pay and build your company. Uh, Once we reached a tipping point wherein we realized that we have a stable revenue source, we have a product that seems to work, we raised some capital from Mumbai Angels about 2 years ago,
Hmm.
and we are in the middle of closing a small follow on from some of the investors.
Hmm.
So uh, to answer your question in brief, we started with zero capital, got our customers to fund our first few projects, and then used that money to build and deliver more projects. Took outside capital only when we realized that we are in a stage wherein we need the capital and we would be able to deliver the promised returns to our investors. So that's how we built the company on profits.
Right. Uh, who's your role model when it comes to entrepreneurship?
So, quite a lot of people, but I wouldn't say any one of them is a role model, because I believe the moment you make someone a role model, you lose a good chunk of your personality. So, there are a lot of things that I draw inspiration from.
Hmm.
Uh, all of us would look up to, let's say, a Kunal Shah for his philosophical bent of mind. Uh, Outside of entrepreneurship, I look up to Carl Jung very, very heavily. Carl Jung was a clinical psychologist, a student of, not a student, but a disciple, and then eventually someone who worked in the industry as Sigmund Freud.
Hmm.
So Carl Jung is someone that I look up to. Kunal Shah is someone that I look up to. Sharma for his grit. I remember our office was in east of Kailash near Mulchand,
Hmm.
and those were the early days, and we did not really have funds at all. Uh, very little money, very little money.
Okay.
And on most days, I used to draw inspiration from the story of Vijay Shekhar Sharma, wherein he said that he used to walk from his home to his office so that he could save enough money to grab tea at Mulchand.
Hmm.
So, depending on where the company is, where you are individually in your journey, there have been different people that have contributed. At that time, motivation came in from Vijay Shekhar Sharma's story. Uh, right now, probably since I'm in a philosophical, psychological bent of mind, Kunal Shah sort of clicks. So there are different people at different times, but then I mean, you get the best from all the leaders of the industries, and then you try to build your own personality. Jeff Bezos for obsession towards customer satisfaction. I think as an Amazon user, most of us would agree that uh, customer satisfaction is a differentiating factor when it comes to Amazon. So there's something that could be learned from Jeff Bezos about that. So no one role model, but a ton of people that I read about, look up to, and try to learn from.
Okay. Uh, how do you suggest our audience to start their journey as entrepreneurs? Let me tell you a bit about our audience. They're young people and students who are passionate enough to be entrepreneurs one day. How do you suggest them they get started?
Sure. So I think, and this also answers one different question. What could I have done differently 10 years ago, 7 years ago,
Hmm.
when I was in their position? I think intern somewhere, find a company, find a cause that you are extremely passionate about. I mean, if you're passionate about F&B, find a F&B company, join Bira, join one of the new gen companies that are coming out. If you're excited about technology, find a technology startup and work there. Don't worry about what you're getting paid. Don't worry about what you're doing. Uh, be the first person to reach the office and the last one to leave. Say yes to every single problem that's thrown at you, and use the first 1 2 years to actually build the kind of grit, enthusiasm, passion that you see in entrepreneurs that you look up to.
Hmm.
Find a person, learn from him. The intention is how do you have the maximum number of experiences, maximum number of learnings in the shortest period of time to increase your probability of success. I mean, uh, to think of it, of all the experiences that I've had in the last 3-4 years, uh, it is possible that someone who joins our team now has a majority of those learnings in, let's say, 1 year's time. So, uh, the first advice would be to, uh, if this is going to be your first entrepreneurial stint, find a good entrepreneur that you look up to, go and work with him for a year, him or her for a year. Learn the tricks of the trade, learn about every single thing that goes into building the business. Don't say no to anything. What I've seen as a common problem in a lot of young people now is they've actually already blocked their minds, which means that they would say that, hey, I want to build my career in marketing, and hence I want to do everything related to marketing, but nothing more. Uh, which is great. Which is great. I mean, you want specialization in marketing, and hence you want to do this. But if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to understand that marketing, product development, sales, branding, self-positioning, accounting. There are going to be 100 things that you have to do on a daily basis. You might actually have to clean your office on the first day. So you better know how to use Colin and a piece of cloth. So all of these different experiences you get in the fastest, quickest manner if you work with an entrepreneur that you look up to. And if that's not an option, the second best way would be to find a customer who's ready to pay you today, or find a person who you can convince to pay you in 2 days, 3 days. But get someone to agree to pay to you before you actually start investing into building a very, very big product.
I think rightly mentioned. As an entrepreneur, you cannot be a specialist in a particular field. If you are by nature, that is fine, but you shouldn't aim for that. And my ex-boss, who was also an entrepreneur, he said all entrepreneurs have to be problem solvers. They are what
Right.
problem can be in different areas. It can be, in finance, your finance team is not doing well, or your marketing is not doing well, your sales is not happening. So whatever the problem is, you have to solve it. So that is a particular skill set, or that is particular bent of mind, yeah, that you have to build rather than specializing in a field. Very well said. Uh,
Sure. I'll quickly add to that because that again defines entrepreneurship as a personality trait as well. So there's a clinical psychologist called Jordan Peterson. He is a Canadian clinical psychologist, quite popular right now globally. Uh, so he actually, in one of his interview, talks about openness as a personality trait. I mean, there are quite a lot of personality traits: openness, agreeableness, extroversion, introversion, neuroticism. So there are quite a lot of personality traits. But as an entrepreneur, what I've realized is, and as if we were to define personality traits, this could also be a good factor for people to look into when they decide to become, let's say, uh, people who get into academics, entrepreneurs, employees, whatever be the category type.
hmm,
Uh, how high are you on openness? Because if you were to sort of look at all the entrepreneurs globally, one big factor common to all of them is, and which we also abuse as a word, visionary, is how open are you to experiences? Because the more open you are to experiences, how open you are as a person, would sort of dictate how large can you think, how outside of the box per se can you think. And that is one common trait between all entrepreneurs. The second would be extraversion. I think being an entrepreneur in itself requires you to have a decent amount of sales skills. You are selling yourself to your team, your clients, your investors, to the world, to even yourself on some days when you're not sure of where things are moving. Uh, and that in itself requires a slight element of extraversion. And I would also, I mean, go to the extent of saying aggression, which is again seen mostly as a negative trait. While it isn't, I think there's a direct establishable link between extraversion and aggression and success in your career. And hence, these are some traits that people should look into before deciding into getting into entrepreneurship, because I don't think entrepreneurship is for everyone. B, it's not the best career choice. There are very, very few winners. And C, there are a few personality traits that actually dictate whether you'll actually enjoy the process or not. Because I mean, if you're not enjoying the process, I love what I do. I actually on most days really love doing what I am doing. And it's not coming from the position that there are no problems. There are a lot of problems, and I'm not saying I'm the only one who has problems. Everyone has problems, but I love solving those problems, and hence that is a trait that people should look out for if they actually want to get into entrepreneurship.
Hmm. Uh, so I think we are almost up with the time. I did have some more questions around. You mentioned there are some traits that may define whether you are entrepreneurial or not. But we are almost up with the time. So would like to ask you, what is the final message you want to give to our audience, who are potential entrepreneurs of country, future founders and co-founders?
So I'll open it up to everyone and not just entrepreneurs, because we've talked very highly and in detail of how and what it means to be an entrepreneur. So a message to be to everyone would be go and find yourself. I mean, it's a cliche. People keep saying it, but look inwards. I mean, most problems that you have in your lives right now, most problems that you see every day, uh, they are less external, more internal. The moment you realize and the moment you start understanding yourself a little better, understanding your reactions, behaviors to problems a little better, and accepting and understanding your limitations as a personality a little better and try to work on them, is when you actually outshine yourself and become a balanced person. Uh, a good starting point would be to go and grab a copy of one of the Carl Jung's books and try to understand about uh, your own personalities, try to understand a little bit about of your unconscious and how it behaves with the conscious world. Because the moment you know yourself, you're in a better position to know the world. And that is where you will find both peace, happiness, and success in its accepted definition of success.
On that note, I would conclude this session. It was a great pleasure to host you here at ELI. I think our audience would have got lifetime lessons from this video. Thanks for your time, Jasprit, and our best wishes for Visual AI and your other ventures.
Thanks, Priya. Thanks a lot. Good to be here.
Viewers, you can follow and connect with Jasprit on LinkedIn by searching for Jasprit Makar. Also, do visit Visual AI website by typing visualai.io. Whom do you want to have here at ELI for next episode? Do let me know in comments below. We'll be back before you know it. Stay tuned to Entrepreneur Lounge of India.